Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Well, why order an extra shot of espresso from Starbucks when you can instead order an extra £10,500 cashback at no expense to yourself? Yep, that's the story today from the same company that decided to close all its stores in the US because some non-customers tried to use their toilet, and therefore they retrained all of their employees in order to say, you don't have to be a customer in order to use the restroom. And yes, we understand that that means that it will not be taken care of and you will have hypodermic needles on the floor that you'll have to clean up, which is not in your job description, but we will expect you to do it anyway because, because the two original gate crashers, who the police were called upon for trespassing, happened to be black. That's why. Yep, they've decided to take the woke culture by storm. But then again, £10,500 for a business that raised $26.5 billion in revenue in 2019. That's not profit, that is revenue. But, you can split the difference and basically halve it and expect that to be closer to profit. That they're not really going to bat an eyelid, and therefore they think it far more profitable in order to bend the knee to the woke cancel culture mob instead of actually stand up to principles and being reasonable. So the BBC reports on this, but thankfully the Irish Times puts in more detail. So a Dublin Starbucks outlet has been ordered to pay €12,000 compensation to an Irish customer with Thai heritage because they moved with their parents when they were 5 or 6 years of age after an employee drew slanty eyes on the woman's matcha tea latte cup. Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's so good. Like, this lady is so oppressed, and it was a female customer. She's so oppressed that she went to Starbucks to order a matcha tea latte. And that's got to be the sign of a successful society. If your sign of oppression is when you're ordering a matcha tea latte. Yeah. Not poor man's tea from Japan, like genmaicha, for example, which is essentially just boiled rice, which has been cooked first. No, it's matcha tea latte. Matcha, which is, known as a delicacy, being ground up powder. Also supposedly a superfood, but that's for another time. So the Workplace Relations Commission Adjudication Officer Kevin Bainham ordered Addison Liffey Unlimited Trading as Starbucks talent to pay Sujavadi Foley, what an Irish name there, €12,000 after finding that Miss Foley, thank you, that makes it a lot easier, was racially harassed when attending the outlet on January the 12th, 2020. That was a quick turnaround, just took a week. Racially harassed. So you might be thinking, well, bloody hell, what were they called? Like gook, slope, chink? What are we on here? Well, no. Instead of trying to spell the name of Sujavadi, they drew a smiley face on the cup instead. But unfortunately, this smiley face was perceived to have slanty eyes, and that doesn't seem to be an image available. I suppose taking a photo of the cup might just show that you're essentially lying. But nonetheless, we've just got words to describe the horrible ordeal that Miss Foley must have gone through. And with this in mind, you might be wondering, well, seeing as, Mr. Bainham said it is not disputed that a Starbucks employee drew an image of a smile and slanty eyes on the cup as a way of marking this Miss Foley's cup, then, and that it is as offensive and as unimaginative as a 19th century Punch cartoon, then what on earth has happened to the employee? That surely, they must have been, named and shamed, removed from their post, and they'll never be hired again, because of course that is what you would expect from somebody in Ireland, seeing as they're mainly white anyway, and it's probably a straight white man with a liberal arts degree working in Starbucks, as you'd expect, and therefore, obviously, they're now out of a job. No, that's not the case, actually. The employee in question, their name is not public. That's nice, I suppose. Starbucks taking responsibility from a management position, as they've retrained all their team, and the employer will not be drawing faces on their cups again unless it's a birthday gift for a child. But okay, that's nice. Maybe the woke cancel culture mob isn't so bad. So who was this employee? Well, they're a female Brazilian immigrant. So I suppose you can't really try and fire her, otherwise you'll get discrimination from the other side. And this is a fine example of how it pays to be, the victim currency or the victim narrowhead really pays. It enables you to garner money from a multinational company, as Miss Foley has done here, but it also enables you to, get away with something that your boss or your company or your employer takes the blame for, and yet still retain your job without any problem. Isn't it great? Isn't it fucking brilliant that is the outcome? And you might be thinking, well, hey, that's a bit ridiculous. Surely it can't be the case that it's based on a race. Well, except it can, as if you go back to the story that I mentioned earlier. Those employees are no longer with the company for, calling the police on trespassers. Because the trespassers happen to be black. So yes, it really does just come down to the oppression Olympics, as Sean Head used to say, before she went too far communist. But nonetheless, this is literally the case. Quite honestly, that it no longer matters what you do. It might matter who you do it to, but it also matters your inalienable characteristics. So it's just another fine example of, if you are a straight white man, then you are the devil incarnate, and you will be screwed over at every opportunity. But if you happen to be female, then that's a tick in the box. And if you're not white, then that's a tick in the box. And of course, if you're a migrant as well, then that's another tick in the box. And therefore, no harm can come to you, clearly. So it was just a toss-up between the two of them. So of course, that does lead to question, well, how many other incidents are there that aren't called into question? And you can imagine, well, if it is if it's a male complaining, then it could be an issue. However, that Miss Foley was devastated by the fact that a face was drawn on the cup instead of taking her name. Why was the face drawn on the cup? Well, it's because the employee thought that Miss Foley was glamorous, and therefore tried to show her appreciation of the glamorous customer by drawing a smiley face on the cup instead of writing a name. Take it or leave it, it's up to you. That is the official defense. But Miss Foley was, as I say, too attacked and heartbroken and saddened and too badly affected by the fact that she saw a face drawn on a cup. Oh dear. That she could not deal with it herself. Instead, a man needed to step up. Oh yeah. And so her partner, with his own soy latte, I'm sorry, probably not soy. I'm sure he was a real man drinking black coffee without sugar or flavorings. Manly man. White in Starbucks. Never mind. Okay. But he was the one that made a stand and spoke to this Brazilian woman, which is quite dangerous, actually. And it is quite a funny situation whereby if you are with a female, or with your partner, girlfriend, wife, fiance, whoever it may be, and they were racially discriminated against, I mean, chances are you guys would just laugh it off and, probably high-five the guy behind the counter. But if you were happen to take offense to this, then you probably go, no, darling, I love you, you're great, but you don't understand that if I try to make a fuss about this, I will be demonized and we will not be welcome back here again. So unfortunately, it is going to have to be you who does it. You are going to have to be the man in this situation because you are a woman. If I make a complaint, it will just fall back on me as being an evil straight white male. So you're going to have to complain here. Thankfully, from the reports here that the Thai immigrant decided to, how should we say, keep the family culture homogenous. And therefore, there wasn't a problem that the man was complaining. But this story is honestly ridiculous, and I wouldn't be reporting on it if it wasn't a BBC News most read. But it gets better. It honestly gets better. That for all the lawyers that Starbucks could hire in order to try and rectify the wrong, but obviously, still have to appeal to the court of public opinion, because unfortunately here, that seems to be what matters most, because I suppose the law isn't in keeping with the culture, or at least with the woke brigade, to be more accurate, that one of them fucking went straight out of left field and they picked a very different defence. As we read, a legal representative for the Starbucks outlet put it to Miss Foley that an American band called Slants had sought to reappropriate the depiction of eyes in the same way that queer had been reappropriated by the LGBT community. In response, Miss Foley, very straightforwardly, said she wanted her name to be marked on the cup and not a depiction of eyes, as this would be called out by the employee. We haven't got a reporter on the employee just shouting out, yeah, Majesty Latte for slanty eyes. Not at all. It's more likely to be the glamorous client. But of course that it wouldn't be reported on. But I understand that it's very difficult for woke journalists to try and pick a side in this debacle. Because which side has the greater victim now? It's a difficult position for them to be in, and it's just brilliant to watch the clusterfuck as they just kind of melt, and then they don't know which side to go on, so they actually have to label this as straight-laced news. Because normally it's cut and dry. You don't have to look at what has actually happened. You don't have to do journalism or reporting. All you need to know is that the skin colour and the genitals of or maybe I suppose the way that they identify with their genitals of the perpetrators and the victims in the story, and then they just base their narrative off that. But with this one, where they seem to be on equal footing, they're completely fucked, and it's bloody brilliant. I mean, it's dreadful for the rest of us that aren't fucking three sheets to the wind, but nonetheless, it is nice to see what honest reporting could actually look like if they tried. It shows that the skills are still there, and they could bring them out if only they were interested in facts and evidence and treating people equally based on them as an individual instead of as an ethnic group. But I suppose that is just too much to ask. But that is the way that things have gone, and I love the meltdown. So I'll finish off from the BBC, because why not? They say, it was also argued the branch had taken reasonably practicable steps to prevent employees committing prohibited conduct. As, making its case, the branch said CCTV footage showed the incident had been benign, and the complainant had not been treated less favourably, and others would have drawings composed of them. Which surely is all you need to know. It's like, you've not been treated less favourably. In fact, other people have had drawings of them as well. So, you're being treated equally, regardless of your race, ethnicity, culture, genitals, gender identity. Okay, so would you like to be treated equally? No, I want special privileges, and I will take you to court and then win thousands of pounds if you don't give me privileges, and the fine and the outpaying that I receive will be the privilege that I feel I should be entitled to, because I came to this country as a young person and I just want to rape all the benefits that I can. And the judge agreed. Oh dear. Well, hey Ireland, I suppose your best bet is really to to see what computing forever is trying to do with you, because that seems to be your last stand. Otherwise, I hope you do appreciate all this immigration and just the infighting that you're going to find between the ethnic groups that really don't appreciate each other and do not have Enlightenment values that the West has tried to push around the world, as that seems to have just been a fad, unfortunately. I'm sure it will come again in a little while, but for the time being, it's taken a backseat to identity politics, so you're fucked. But it is nice to see, and although it's terrible that migration has gotten to this point, it is nice to see that it's gotten to the point at which they can't decide which side to pick. And obviously we're going to be seeing more of that, and hopefully that will then re-energize journalists to do their job of journalism, and people will come to expect that, instead of just painting, the white person or the native as the evil person. Meanwhile, the natives are still the majority of the countries. So if we see that journalists can still, be balanced on each side, and yet would wish to demonize the natives, that is not going to go down well with the majority of the population. So I would say we've reached another tipping point, and we're only going to see more of this until the ivory tower crumbles. So maybe there's a silver lining after all. But that's it from me. So as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think, we do need to see more stories like this, where both sides are migrants, or have some protected characteristics whereby the journalist can't decide what they're supposed to be doing? Or do you think we've had enough of that, and actually it is time that judges will listen to people being reasonable and saying, well, yeah, as like we've got the CCTV footage, we're not doing anything that is illegal, we're not doing anything that is immoral. In fact, we're doing things that are logically and morally sound, and you can't really argue with if you're a reasonable person. Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.